seconds.
I think we're probably going to start late. There's a lot of people piling in.
All right, no problem. Do you want to start getting them towards their seats because we're only...
I don't think I'm going to rush them because I see a huge number of people still coming in.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to say that we're going to...
Yeah.
Am I good? Yeah. Okay.
There it is.
There's a bit of a line there.
I know, I'm going to wait. It is now 5:30. We'd like to start town meeting. If people could take their seats. I think I'll hold for another minute or so. I see people still registering. These guys, these two, they're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
If it gets to them.
Would people please take their seats if they're already checked in and have their materials so we could get started?
They're getting their cards.
Margaret needs to register.
Yeah, she is. She's up. She's going.
Does she know? Does she remember?
Yes,
Okay.
she's headed that way right
Okay.
You can see the cheap seats up there. That's where all
Oh.
the department heads are.
All those guys? Okay, Brooke. Let's see, we got Brooke, we got Dave, we got Jim's. Oh, Jim's down lower.
Jim's lower.
Yeah, where's
He's always
Patrick?
down the hall. Patrick.
Is that
and
on the?
Steve.
Is that Patrick on the end? Yeah. And Dylan and Steve.
There you go.
Okay, all right, we got them all. Still coming in. All right, I think we're good. The time now is 5:33, and I would like to open the deliberative session of town meeting. Evening, everyone. My name's Marilyn Clarkson. I'm the town moderator. I think we'll appropriately start the evening with 2 stars from our elementary school, if you'd come up here. We have Finley Brennan and Ryan Dolly, and they're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'd all rise. I really don't think we need to lead. Okay, that's a little, okay.
Pledge allegiance
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Finley and Ryan. Yeah, let's start by introducing the head table, our selectmen. actually, we have Mark Dakota first, who's our town manager. But next to Mark are the three selectmen. We have Margaret Turner, Rich Rita, and Mike Aronson, who's not going to wave to you tonight. Okay. And Mark Dakota, our town manager. And next to Mike Aronson is Sharon Sharon, who's our town clerk assistant. And next to her is Judy Rafi, who's our finance and HR coordinator. And Judy's going to be tracking the appropriations for us tonight. What that means is any of the warrant articles that aren't already part of the budget, which is Article 16, but there's additional warrant articles which will be additional funds if we approve them on top of the $1,785,000. I don't know the exact number in front of me. And so she'll be tracking them if they pass. So those will be funds added on. Our department heads are against the back wall on the bleachers. It's not significant that they're sitting on the bleachers, but that's where they are. So first we have Brooke Wakefield, who's our rec director. Why don't you guys come up here? Come on. Come on. The townspeople have to come to the microphone. Let's see your face. Okay. So a lot of these guys you know already. So Brooke Wakefield, who's our rec director, if you could just stick your hand up. Yep. And Jim Mayhew, who's our director of public works. I'm going to pay for this, you know. Dave Noyes, who's our director of public safety. Okay, everybody knows Dave. And Patrick Moyer, who's our police chief now. Yeah. And Dylan Tucker, who's our water and wastewater department supervisor. And I think our newest addition is Steve Royer. Aren't you our newest? He's our administrative services manager. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Just watch, they probably won't plow my road now. So at this point, I'd like to recognize Mike Aronson for something really near and dear and important to the town and to my heart in particular. If you have all a copy of the annual report, on page 2 is dedication to two really valuable assets, people, to our town, Sandy and Bill Larson, who are here tonight. And we'd like to recognize them and honor them tonight. Mike.
Marilyn? No? Yes. Well, thanks, Marilyn. Thank you very much. I consider this a privilege and honor as one of the last things I'll do as a selectman in this town, is to honor these two friends of mine and real examples of what it is to live in Waterville Valley and be part of the community. Sandy and Bill, well deserved, and thank you.
Sincerely meant. Also in the annual report, which I'm sure you all have a copy of now, are the moderator's rules of order. So let's follow them. And I would like to take a second to remind everybody, if you haven't thought about it, to please silence your personal devices. People get annoyed when they go off during the meeting. And everybody at this point should have a voter card, which you'll hold up when I ask for a voice vote. And that's if you're registered and checked in. And also a green ballot, because one of the very first articles during the deliberative session of town meeting is a ballot, a bond article, which by law has to be done by paper ballot and has to be inserted into the box. And the timer starts and the balloting has to be open for 1 hour. So we'll be dealing with that shortly. Also, if you missed it, besides the copies of the annual report, there are handouts of all the slides that are going to be up on the big I'm calling it a jumbotron. Is that a fair description? I love it. We're going to have an IMAX here pretty soon. We have copies of all the slides on paper, if you're interested, and they're there with the handout materials. And that's also, you'll go back to that direction for the ballot box for the bond article when we get to it. So you have the annual report, you're armed with the slides. We're ready to go. Before we start with the next article, or Article 4, Mark would like to do a short presentation of the overall budget, tax impact, use of fund balance, and the capital improvements plan.
Good evening, everybody, and again, welcome to town meeting. It's great. I got this. I didn't want to. I know I'm special. No, it's great to see everybody here. Back at the beginning of February, we held a budget hearing and bond hearing, which we're required to do by state law each year. And I covered some information during that hearing. Before we get into the money articles and the appropriations, I'd like to review a little bit of that information for those of you who were not able to be there in February, because I think it's appropriate for all of us to have as much info as we can. So please bear with me. I have a few slides here. The operating budget is the amount of money that you will approve this evening for department operations. It doesn't include any of the bonding articles or the individual articles that we will take up, the smaller amounts of money. The operating budget is in Article 16, and it's the departmental budgets, all right? When we talk about revenues, we're talking about fees and other incomes that the town has coming in that are separate from the property tax amounts. So during the year, things like motor vehicle registrations, building permit fees, that sort of thing, we collect those, and that amount of money is taken off or credited against the total budget, and the balance is what makes up your property taxes for the year. And then we'll use the term appropriation a lot this evening. An appropriation is an amount of money that you as town meeting are going to authorize us to spend in the upcoming year. And our fiscal year does run from January 1st to December 31st each year. So we're already almost 3 months into it. But these appropriations are very important because we cannot spend money unless you have appropriated it here this evening. The overall budget, I like the bottom line up front, right? So if everything is approved this evening, all the warrant articles are approved and move forward, the total appropriation will be $6,279,237. That is an increase in the operating budget of about $481,000. We do, and other warrant articles, an increase of about $216,000. You'll see the total appropriations is negative there. That's because last year we had a $5 million bond issue that was approved, right? So that goes against the number there under fiscal year 2021. So that's why you're seeing a negative. It's actually up. And that's the last line shows the estimated amount of taxes to be raised after we subtract off those revenues that I talked about. That increase this year is $289,948 over the amount of taxes that we raised in 2021. That is about a 9.6% increase in the amount of taxes to raise. It's equal to about 87 cents on the tax rate. And then I gave you some examples so you could have an idea of what this means in an amount of dollars, given your property value for your property here. All right, so if it goes up 87 cents on a $500,000 property, that means an additional $435 for the year for taxes. And let me make sure that I have everything. Oh, and then the use of fund balance. There are a few articles where we will refer to the fund balance. That is the amount of money that is basically our balance that we have, our cash balance for the town. It's made up of revenues that we didn't anticipate, so we collected more than we thought we would, or it's money that we did not spend in previous years. You can see each year we take an amount, or most every year, and every year since 2016, we use an amount from that fund balance to offset one-time purchases. Things like vehicles or other capital improvements or things like that. You can see, and this amount that we use each year actually reduces the amount of property taxes that we have to raise. So this just gives you a little bit of history for how we have used fund balance. And there are several warrant articles that we'll talk about this evening where we're going to recommend that we use fund balance to fund certain things. And we'll talk about those as we're going through the budget. All right.
I have a question on the previous slide. I'm just curious, showing what the taxes are going to be raised this year. How much did they increase last year?
The first question I can't answer. Gosh. We actually were,
For the town budget, it dropped.
hold on. That is actually in your town report. Hold on just a moment, and I will find the page. If you look at page 55 of the town report, it shows the amount of taxes to raise.
The town went down 4 cents last year.
Now, that total that's shown on that page includes the county tax, the education tax, the local school, and the town. Okay? So, let's see. It actually went down. So it went, the town tax rate last year, when compared to 2020, went down by about 4 cents. So this year, we're saying that it's going to increase by 87 cents. Okay? So you can look at this column, it says town. It'll show you the town portion of the tax rate, and you can track it that way.
Can I just request next year when you do this, if you could have this slide, keep this slide in and add the next year's slide? I think it would be helpful.
Thank you.
Are you done with your presentation?
Yes.
Yes, you are. Okay. So now I think we'll look at Article 4. May I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $900,000 gross budget for engineering, repair, site work, drainage, permitting, and repaving of town-maintained roads and sidewalks, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $900,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the municipal officials to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon.
May I have a second?
This is Rich. I will second that motion.
Thank you. You should note that the selectmen unanimously recommend approval of this article, and being a bond article, it takes a 3/5 majority vote to pass. The state legislation changed it recently in the last couple of years. It used to be a 2/3 majority vote, but now it's 3/5, so that means from 66 and 2/3% down to 60%. So it takes, yeah. So that's what we're aiming for. Shall we have the discussion on, anybody going to do a presentation
Yeah,
on the need?
I will.
Okay, so I'd like to recognize Mark Dakota.
Okay, so the town has a capital improvements program. This is the only bonded article that we're going to be discussing this evening. And by bonded article, we mean money that we will borrow in order to do the project. We have a 6-year capital improvements program. It includes all of the capital needs as determined by the planning board, the selectmen, and town staff. This particular warrant article, we have an amount of money that previous town meetings have appropriated, $1,014,000 in that account. This $900,000 would be added to that account, and it would allow us to, the plan would be to pave from the entrance to town at the intersection of Triple I Road up to Tecumseh Road, and then take a left onto Tecumseh Road. I'll show you a map there, it'll be easier. We'll follow Tecumseh Road all the way around to Snows Brook Road, take a left and go down the hill, and then follow Snows Brook Road all the way around to the other end of Village Road. Okay, so the intersection of Village and Valley Road. So it's that red line that's on there. So that would take the $1 million that we already have in hand, add this $900,000 to it, and pave that section of road. We have engaged an engineer who's doing a plan for us right now. We have a very preliminary number of $1,500,000, which was pre what's happened in the last couple of weeks with fuel prices and all of that. But right now, the engineer's estimate based on very preliminary plans is about $1.5 million. I expect that will come in higher by the time we put it out to bid in the next couple of months. But if there is anything left from the $1,900,000, it will remain, because of the way you're voting on it, it will remain in a road repair and paving account, and we can use it for the next project. Okay, so I see some questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what is Snows Mountain Road going to get done? Massive road complaints about it.
Snows Mountain Road is on the list. We have a priority list. We have not gone any further than this work right now as far as the timeline, but it is one of the roads that we are looking at. Well,
So I live on that road, so I know my kidneys take a beating. They did today again. I think we've discussed this with the engineers, and one issue is whether we want to go ahead and attack the worst roads first, or go and work on roads that are in better condition, and it'll cost us less to repair or to make the changes we want to make. And so we decided as a board that it made more sense to go for the roads that would be cheaper for us in the long run to repair now, so they don't get as bad as Snows Mountain Road, and to save Snows Mountain Road to the end. Go ahead.
Let me clarify that for you a little bit. I think what we're saying is this project here is a secondary part of the original project we applied to as far as the pedestrianization of the town core, where we would expand, fix the roads, get rid of, redo the culverts, get rid of the curbs, so it's more walker-friendly and more bicycle and pedestrian-friendly, as we have a walking core based out of the center of town. Now, back to your question, Alan, we have a 150-page report on the town that was done by HEB Engineering this year that prioritizes the roads. And I'm sure that if you like, we can get you the list of how they came up with their priorities and what the priorities they've suggested for the town are as far as repairing the roads. It goes, I think, a little bit more towards the roads that are more used than the roads that are worse. So if you like, I'm sure we can get you a copy of that report, and you can see there's a summary that gives you why we're doing what we're doing. But it's not being neglected, it's not being put off. And if you look in the CIP, if you go down a few years, there's a massive amount for road repair, which will encompass hopefully all of this stuff.
A six-year project?
Right.
Well, Alan, I think the bottom line is it is a priority road to do. I do not know what the exact timing is, whether it will be next year or whether it'll be 2024. We can't say that yet. But it is a priority road. And the other issue that we have with that road is the water line. And we are working with our water engineer because that line has broken several times, as you know, over the past 8 or 9 years. I think we've had, what, Jim, 5, 6 breaks up there. And I think that is something that we're going to do at the same time. So we will get to it as soon as we can.
One last thing else.
Yeah.
Are you considering extending storage up there? I believe that's the only road in town that's not on the town sewer.
Right now, it is not on the plan to have sewer run up there. The issues are with the amount of digging that we would have to do and the ledge that is up there. We don't think that it's feasible. It'll cost way too much. So I don't see that happening. Yep.
Excuse me, could I ask people from the audience to identify themselves and where they live so we can have it on the record?
We do have a mic here that will make it wonderful for everyone to hear. If you could please come up, we'd love it.
Just line up and
Line up
say
and,
your piece.
yep,
Yeah, it's good to line up because then we see how many people want to speak. We
Exactly.
try to limit it to 3 minutes per speaker.
nope, pull it down, yeah. There you go.
One of the things we've talked about when we've talked about Tecumseh Road. Oh, Judy Ritchie, and I live off Tecumseh Road. One of the things we've talked about when we've talked about Tecumseh Road a number of times is the need for a sidewalk on that road, particularly because of the curve and the traffic coming in both directions. I'm kind of assuming, listening to this is repaving only, and
No.
we are not,
We are addressing,
Pedestrian paths.
we're widening it. Oh,
we are widening the paved area and we will form a pedestrian area for bike and pedestrian traffic.
It's not an actual sidewalk.
Not an
berm,
actual
but a
sidewalk.
wider road with a
That's
walking
correct.
area.
That's the approach we're taking right
Berm
now.
creates a problem in plowing and the rest of it, so.
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah, the wider road, it's a better idea, but thank you.
And, yeah, go ahead.
Did you say your name?
I'm Ann Louise Tengering, and I live off of Greeley Hill Road on Snows Mountain Road. I want to go back to the safety of that road. People are falling walking down that road. Are we doing anything to make it easier so we don't have injuries? We need to be able to walk in and out of our house, and right now it's dangerous.
Okay, we'll look at that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Tom Ennis, 51 Snows Mountain Road, and I'm glad you're presenting the roadways, and I'm glad you're moving ahead with the project and understand that it's a long-term process. One of the things I would like to know is what is the cross-section, and if you don't have that information, how do we see that online? Can we see this report? One of the issues that I have is that the combination of roadway, sidewalk, especially in the winter, isn't safe for pedestrians. If you watch how people drive, which I've done, because first I want to commend the town for doing a good job with keeping the sidewalks plowed and doing that extension on the road where people can walk. The problem is cars can't see the lines. So when they don't see the lines, they have a tendency to go to the further out to the right and the left. And so I think however you do this, you're going to have to figure out a way to protect the pedestrians in all seasons in either a divider or a separation or something. There's a number of ways you could do it. I understand where you don't want to put a berm, a by 2 minutes berm or something like that. The other thing I would say is I hope you're not considering taking out the existing curving, because new curbing, new granite curbing costs anywhere about $70 a linear foot, that you leave that there and make that work within your plan. So I guess my question is, how do we, as residents, see what the plan is, and how do we go about commenting on it, especially before it goes out to bid?
We will make a note to get that up on the website.
All right, thank you.
Tom Myrick, Lost Pass Road. We have $1 million from last year. We're going to vote for another 900,000 this year. And then in 2024, we have another $1 million. So that's $4 million. What happened to the $6 million estimate of doing all the roads?
Right now, the rest of the funding is not included in the 6-year
So
plan.
it's beyond 6
Well,
years.
we don't know. The plan is looked at every year by the selectmen, by the planning board, and we can change it. But right now, it only includes 4 of the 6 million.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Aside from all of this.
Name, please?
Joe Jacobs, Noon Peak Road. With the acceleration of the petroleum products and everything that's going on in the world, have you guys appropriated enough money when this thing goes out to bid?
Ah, I'm glad you should ask that question.
We'll be talking about that in a
Yeah.
few minutes.
We'll be-
didn't ask you up here, did we?
Well,
Yeah.
well, wait, Joe.
He
but
must have been a plant.
For this particular article, we're talking about, remember, we have an engineering estimate. Hope I can still be heard, yep. We have an engineering estimate of 1.5 million, and this would give us 1.9. So we believe, yes, in this warrant article, yes, we do. We'll address the rest of the funding when we get to it.
Katie Smith, Boulder Path Road. 2 or 3 years ago, we did the article for the sign in the road.
Yes.
And we did the sign, but did the portion of that was left over go to that 1.1?
Yes, the 1,014,000 includes the leftover money from
From the
that.
sign project.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Berry Fish, Flat Mountain. I see on the end there, on the end of the red, the road being completed. But as we all know, there's new construction going on this side of that
Yes.
red road. Is that road going to be completed after the construction or before the construction?
We've made the engineer aware of that, and we will talk to the contractor about timing. But the engineer actually feels that doing this repaving at the time that the construction is going on is helpful because it helps actually compacting the base.
Okay.
So
So
yes,
we're
we
not
are
worried
taking
about
that.
this new construction doing anything to the new road?
No, we'll do it in conjunction with it. Yep.
Anything else to say? on the article? Are there any more questions from the floor? Well, seeing none, I think we'll bring it to a vote. Now, this is a special vote. This is the only time, most likely, that you'll be asked to vote on paper this evening. So I need you to decide yes or no for this article, Article 4, the road project, and mark your ballot. Just please rip off that first one. You may not need the white ballots this evening, but only the green one is what needs to go into the ballot box. And I'm going to start the clock now. It's 6:03, so at 7:03, we'll close the balloting. I'm glad you asked that question, because a lot of people, but a lot of people ask me that question. I'm gonna go vote.
Remember, we got 900,000, and so it's 114,000.
Rich, did you vote yet?
Because you add the
You did.
114
Okay.
and you get the,
Will you deposit this for me?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Thanks.
from the 250.
Looks like everybody's done. If you could please take your seats. We're going to move on to Article 5 while we're waiting for the time to elapse. And then when the hour has passed, our supervisors and ballot clerks will start counting the results of that bond article, and I'll report them to you, but there's no reason for us not to move on with the agenda. So I'd like to hear a motion on Article 5.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $160,000 for the replacement of emergency breathing apparatus and associated equipment for the Department of Public Safety. $140,000 of this appropriation is to come from a grant from the New Hampshire Department of Public Safety, and the balance from general taxation.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. And note that the selectmen unanimously recommend approval of this article, and also, as we talked about before, that this amount is not included in the budget, Article 16. So if this passes, Judy will be keeping track of them for us and add it to the bottom line. So we have a presentation for this?
Yeah. So, Madam Moderator, Article 5, the funding for this is through a federal and state grant program. It's actually a 95%, 5% grant. So the state federal grant portion is up to 95% of the $160,000. We are we're structuring this so that we're starting with $20,000 in town funds in case the grant is not approved, because we do not have final approval. The $20,000, if we don't get the grant, we'll use the $20,000 to purchase a couple of replacement breathing apparatus systems, and that'll get us started. If we get the grant, we will spend the entire $160,000. We will not have to use all of the $20,000 in the town appropriation. So we definitely will use whatever grant money we get first, and then the town money. So hopefully we get this for, what, a few $1,000s instead of the $20,000. Any questions? Dave can explain self-contained breathing apparatus if there is someone, but it's the air packs and the face masks that our firefighters wear when they go into hazardous.
We'll take questions from the floor now. If you'd come up front, please. Mike, I see your hand up. You do
Yes,
have
you
to.
do.
The moderator says you do.
Well, and it is important because we are live streaming on YouTube, and it's the only way for the people online to be able to hear us. So.
I think Dave, he has to explain to us, and he
Who are
did the
you?
other day. Oh, I'm sorry. For those who don't know me, my name is Mike Coppell. I'm at 11 Devereaux Way. How important the replacement is, because as I understand it in talking to people, Alicia, it is extraordinarily important that this be done.
He'll come up front. He's going to come up
He's
front.
coming up. He's
Yeah.
coming up.
All right. Here comes Dave Noyes.
He's ready.
Good.
Give him the mic, please, Alicia.
So this is an SCBA. This is an SCBA self-contained breathing apparatus. It's what the firefighters wear anytime we go into a fire or there's a hazardous condition, CO, whatever it might be. These current packs were also purchased on a grant 17 years ago. We've taken very good care of them. That's the reason why they've lasted for 17 years. But we're at a point where they're now no longer NFPA compliant, and we can no longer change the air bottles out because they're past the hydrostatic test date. And so for safety reasons, they won't test these anymore. So hopefully the grant is actually a really good deal. I'm fairly confident that we have a very good shot at receiving this grant, and it will replace every SCBA for every seat in fire apparatus that we have. There's 19 total.
Wow.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Does anyone else have questions on the floor? Don't be shy. Okay. I think we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of the apparatus? Thank you. Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you. Article 6, may I have a motion?
I move that the town vote and raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 for the construction of a sedimentation control facility along Snows Brook above Corcoran's Pond. $50,000 of this appropriation is to come from grant funds, and the balance is to come from general taxation.
May I have a second?
I second the motion.
The selectmen approve this article 3-0. And again, this amount's not included in the budget, Article 16. Mark?
Back in 2009, we dredged Corcoran's Pond. It took an entire summer. We had to completely drain the pond, and we put large machinery in, and we dredged out
How much did that cost, Mark?
That cost about $700,000, Mike.
Thank you.
It cost a lot of money. And, well, actually, it cost about $600,000. We, as you can see from walking by Corcoran's Pond and looking into it, the siltation is continuing. So the Conservation Commission has been working with an individual who has done it's called stream restoration projects. And basically what they do is they put trees, rocks, and other material in streams, and they slow down the water, and the sedimentation settles out in the streams and along the bankings of the streams, rather than carrying the siltation all the way down to a pond like Corcoran's Pond or like the pond at Campton Dam as you're coming into town on Route 49. So this is an individual who has identified a program where from the state we will apply for a grant program that is a 50-50 match. So the town would pay half of the cost of the work, and the state would provide us with a grant for the other half. The $100,000 is based on an estimate of the work that has to be done and the length of the streams that we are looking at that feed into Snows Brook and then down into Corcoran's Pond. The idea of spending this money is to prevent us from having to dredge the pond as often as, we're looking at 12 years since the last time we did it. It is obviously filling in quite a bit. There is a $700,000 project in the capital plan for 2024 right now for $700,000 to go in and dredge the pond again. This project will not prevent us from having to go in and do some kind of dredging, but what it's intended to do is slow down the siltation in the pond. So that's what it's for. And just one other thing, please. The person who has done this project, they have successful projects that have definitely stopped siltation in downstream bodies of water. So we're working with someone who has a proven record. They've done similar projects in Clark, Eastman, and Oliverian Brook. They've done some through the Tin Mountain Conservation Center in Belknap and Carroll and other places in Grafton County. So we're working with people who have done this type of project before. So we're pretty confident it's going to work. Judy?
Let's wait till you finish your presentation
Yeah,
to entertain questions. That's
I'm-
it? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. So from the floor, come on up.
Hi, Judy Ritchie, Tecumseh Road. Is there any information, or has anyone looked at whether this problem, which just thinking way back, I know we had it 12 years ago, but I don't remember it 12 years before that or before that. Does any of this have to do with the amount of construction that's going on upstream from the pond?
No, actually, the Snows Brook goes into the White Mountain National Forest just a short distance from where it enters Corcoran's Pond, okay? There isn't a whole lot of construction going on upstream of Snows Brook, but what we have noticed is since 2011 and Tropical Storm Irene, there was a lot of erosion that occurred during that storm, and that definitely has added to the siltation that's getting in, the silt that's getting into Corcoran's Pond. As far as the areas where construction is going on, those areas are separate from the brook.
And Louise Tyring, Greeley Hill Road. So you said that there were money planned in the future. If we do this now, will that prolong and move that out further than 2024?
I would not anticipate that it would. What I think it will do is it will prevent us from having to come back after we do the next dredging, and it would prolong the distance to the next. But I think the 2024 project is probably a project that we're going to have to do.
So what you're saying then is that it's not necessarily to do that now. We can do it as part of that dredging if we wanted to move the cost out.
If we wanted to move this 100,000 out,
Yeah.
the only thing that I would say is I wouldn't know about the availability of grant funding. We know that the grant money is available right now. So if we can do an application and get an authorization and do an application, we can get 50% of the cost
All right.
paid
Thank you.
now.
Thank you.
Any more questions? I think we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor of Article 6, please raise your cards. And those opposed? Unanimous.
That's you.
Article 7, do I hear a motion?
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate.
No, no, no,
Nope.
no. 7,
This is Article 7.
table.
Yeah, you have to open the regular, you were right.
I have to open
Yeah,
it though, right?
yes, yes.
No, I thought you went
Don't listen to
directly to
them.
table the motion.
Go ahead.
Yeah, then we'll make the amendment.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 for planning and engineering of options for a community and activity center. This appropriation is to come from general taxation.
May I have a second?
No.
Go ahead and second.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. And I'd like to recognize Margaret Turner.
Madam Moderator, I would like to move to table Article 7.
May I have a second?
Rich, I will make that motion.
Thank you.
And just by way of explanation, because of the comments that we have heard at the budget hearing, we have decided to turn this matter over to the Town Core Working Group for further consideration. We welcome your comments on this article either at the end of today's meeting when we do the sense of the meeting discussion, or by using a special comment form that will be available as you leave the meeting today. And that information will be very helpful to the Town Core Working Group. I want everyone to understand that our rec department is severely limited over the past couple of years in its ability to expand programming and increase revenues due to space limitations. I ask for your continued patience and understanding while we do the best we can with what's available.
Are there any questions about tabling this Article 7? If not, we'll move to see if we have agreement on tabling Article 7. All those in favor of moving past it, tabling Article 7? Thank you. Opposed? Article 8. May I have a motion?
Yes, and let me apologize up front. We have a number of articles here that we have to have done separately. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be added to the Curious George Cottage Capital Reserve previously established. This appropriation is to come from the December 31st, 2021 fund balance available on January 1st, 2022.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I will second.
The selectmen unanimously recommend approval of this. And again, this article is not part of the current budget, Article 16. Who's going to speak to this? Jim or Mark?
No, I will.
Okay.
So the next three articles, 8, 9, and 10, as Rich said, are for our capital reserves. They have to be voted on individually. Sorry about that. This first one for the Curious George Cottage, the Curious George Cottage is operated and maintained on a day-to-day basis by the Ray Center, which is a nonprofit group. However, the town of Waterville Valley, by agreement, continues to own the building. And so we need to have a capital reserve if something happens to the building. We are responsible if the roof falls off or whatever, we have to replace it as a town. So this 20,000 will be added to the existing amount in the capital reserve, which is $20,106. And we will maintain this capital reserve. It's under the control of the trustees of the trust fund. The selectmen make decisions as far as what maintenance has to go on with the building. And then they go to the trustees, and the trustees release the money out of the capital reserve. So there are two different groups involved in the control of this money. But this is for capital maintenance of that structure. Any questions?
Any discussion on this? Guess not. Let's bring it to a vote. All those in favor, Article 8? And all those opposed? Thank you. 9, may I have a motion?
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the fire apparatus repair and replacement capital reserve previously established. This appropriation is to come from the December 31st, 2021 fund balance available on January 1st, 2021.
A second.
I second.
The selectmen unanimously recommend approval of this article, and Judy's going to keep track of it if it passes for us. Anything to say about this?
Yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't say it at the last article, but all of these capital reserves are being funded out of fund balance. So that means there's no impact on the tax rate. It's offset by the same amount of money in revenue, okay? So this is an account which allows us to make repairs to current fire apparatus, which are all of our fire trucks, the ladder truck, and the ambulance. And then if there is a balance in this account at the time that we replace a vehicle, then we would have the option of using this money to pay for that replacement. So.
Discussion? Bring it to a vote. All those in favor, Article 9? Thanks. We're flying. Article 10.
Go for it.
Do I hear a motion?
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the road repair capital reserve previously established. This appropriation is to come from the December 31, 2021 fund balance available on January 1st, 2022.
Second?
I second that motion.
I again bring it to your attention that this was unanimously recommended by our selectmen. Mark?
Yep, this account is used for emergency repairs to the roads, things like a major washout or that sort of thing. We have separate monies that address potholes, and then the major reconstruction are done under the bond article. So this is very specific for road repairs on an emergency basis.
Discussion? Let's vote on the road repairs, $10,000. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Article 11, may I hear a motion?
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $32,500 for the payment of the final year of a 4-year lease for the Public Works backhoe. This appropriation is to come from general taxation.
I have a second.
I second.
Again, unanimously recommended by our selectmen. Mark?
Most of our vehicles we purchase on short-term leases, generally 3 to 4 years in duration. Each of these leases, at the end of the lease, we own the equipment outright, and we continue to utilize the equipment however long we can keep it running. So we have 3 leases that you're going to be seeing in these 3 warrant articles. This first one is the final year of a 4-year lease for our backhoe, and we will own the backhoe. It's in great shape, and we anticipate that it'll keep serving us for several more years. And the reason that we utilize the leases rather than borrowing the money is that if circumstances were to change and we didn't need the equipment anymore, all of these leases contain an escape clause, so we can return the vehicle if the money is not appropriated. So,
Thank you. Any discussion or questions on it? Let's bring it to a vote. Article 11. Thank you. Opposed? And that's a typo there. It's 30, it should be 32,500.
I'm sorry, it is a typo.
It's all right. We'd give you 33.
Okay.
May I have a motion on Article 12?
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $28,000 for the payment of the final year of a 3-year lease for the Public Works 1-ton plow truck. This appropriation is to come from general taxation.
May I have a second?
I second the motion.
Selectmen unanimously recommend approval of this article. Mark?
Again, same thing, final year. We have 2 1-ton dump trucks that are our plow trucks, and this is the lease on one of them.
Discussion, questions? Let's vote on this. Article 12, all in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Article 13, I'd like to hear a motion.
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 for the payment of the second year of a 3-year lease on the Public Works pickup truck with plow equipment. This appropriation is to come from general taxation.
Second,
I second that motion.
Selectmen unanimously recommend approval of this article. Mark?
The pickup truck, we have a 3/4-ton pickup truck that we utilize for plowing our parking lots and very small, tight spaces on our road system. We have a lot of dead ends and that sort of thing. So this is the second year of a 3-year lease for that pickup.
Okay, questions, discussion? Should we vote on it? All those in favor? And opposed? Thank you. That was 13, right?
That was 13.
Okay. I'd like to hear a motion on Article 14.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $55,000 for emergency repairs and general maintenance of the water distribution system and the wastewater collection system. This appropriation is to come from general taxation.
Second?
I second.
Thank you. Selectmen unanimously recommend approval of this article 3-0. Mark?
We utilize this money for maintaining basically all of the pipes that are in the ground throughout town for both our water distribution system and the sewer collection system, all of the manholes, the valves, and anything else. So whenever we have a break or in a water line or something like that, this money is used for that maintenance. We currently have about $29,300 in this particular account. We are asking for another $55,000. We have several manholes that are in pretty rough shape that we need to address. And we want to make sure that we maintain enough money in here to take care of these emergency repairs. This is not an account where we would go onto a road and replace an entire section of line. We're just repairing particular breaks. This is an area where we are seeing significant increases in cost of materials and the work to be done. So that is the reason for the very large ask this year in giving us the reserve to be able to react to these situations.
Any discussion or questions? Let's bring it to a vote. All those in favor? Article 14, opposed? Thank you. Article 15, do I hear a motion?
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 for the repair and improvement of the Recreation Department boat operations and storage area in the gazebo at Town Square. This appropriation is to come from general taxation.
May I have a second?
I second.
Again, this amount is not included in Article 16, which is the budget. Mark or Brooke?
Yep, so the area in the bottom of the gazebo in Town Square is utilized by the Recreation Department to store all of our equipment for the boat rentals that we do on Corcoran's Pond during the summer. Life preservers, paddles, that sort of thing are kept in that lower area. We have a lot of leaks that are coming through the floor of the gazebo. We need to do some repairs and shore that up. We would be doing this project in coordination with the Town Square staff because that's part of the Town Square. So what we're addressing is just the bottom portion with this money.
Question, discussion? Should we bring it to a vote then? Oh, we got a question.
We got a question, all right. I was on a roll.
Yeah.
Oh, we got two.
You almost
Patty
made it.
Fergal.
Hi, Pat.
Have we looked at alternatives to that, like setting up bins? You know, they sell those large plastic inexpensive bins that we could lock up and put the life preservers inside and paddles as opposed to
No, we have not really looked at anything like that. We have a pretty large number of life preservers that in that area. I mean, that entire area underneath is pretty jam-packed with stuff. So I have not done that
I just
yet.
wonder if that would be a nice alternative and maybe even mobile and.
Sure, we can look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Pat.
We don't,
Pat?
Pat, excuse me, Pat Kucharski, Windsor Hill. I don't even know my address anymore.
That's all right.
My question is, we don't own that property, but we are improving it. Is this done in coordination with the Town Square?
Yeah, we will be doing this work in coordination with them, but they do provide this to us at no cost, so we don't really.
But are they
feel
going to
a-
fix the top
Well,
that's dripping down?
That will be up to Town Square at the time that we do it, but we haven't gotten that far into it yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any more questions? Don't be shy. Okay, we'll bring it to a vote. Article 15. All those in favor? And all those opposed? Okay. Could you leave your hands up for a minute? I need to count. Or we see people on the fence. Keep your hands up. It's either yes or no. It's black and white. Okay. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, now we're moving on to Article 16, which is the one that we've referenced no less than 20 times this evening. That's the budget. So I'd like to, before we have, get into the meat of the budget, Mark would like to tell us a little bit more. Get into the weeds for us.
Yeah, so again, during the budget hearing, we were able to give you the people that were there, some information about the changes that the town is going through right now. This town budget does represent the largest increase that I've been a part of since I've been here in 2001. So I just wanted to take a few minutes and we have been undergoing some pretty dramatic changes. Those changes were exacerbated in 2020 and 2021. And I think these numbers kind of give you an idea of why we're asking for the significant changes that we're asking for. So let me go through. First, the population. The population is up 146% from 2005 to 2021. And we are continuing to see right now as of the end of February, we're at a net change of 13 additional people, in addition to the 646 that are on this slide. So the growth in town is continuing, and we expect that it will continue even more. So this is one of the drivers. We are looking at one of the ways that we can measure the traffic in and out of town hall is our motor vehicle registrations, which if you compare this to the population chart, they look almost exactly the same, and that's because the new people who are coming here are registering their vehicles with us. So we're up to 871 car registrations in 2021. That may not sound very impressive, but when you consider that each one of those takes about a half an hour for a normal one, and upwards of an hour for a complicated one, that can take a lot of staff time at Town Hall, and it's a lot of traffic in and out of the building. We are looking at, this is just one indicator of our administrative workload, and we are designing ways that we can measure the rest of the things that we do, such as our billing systems and our collections and all of that, because there's a lot of work that the folks in Town Hall are doing on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of those are affected by the number of people that we have living here, and the fact, as you'll see on another slide, the number of properties that we have here in town and the building that's going on. So all of these things impact the actual workload. Here's another example I just talked about, building permit values. We were going along our merry way with, somewhere between $3 or $4 million a year of new building permits or new buildings being added here in town. Last year, big building boom. And that will continue because this large increase here, up to $13 million in new building permit value, that does not include a 13-unit development on Golden Heights that's already approved by the planning board, and it does not include another 12 units that's going to be talked about initially on Thursday. So that will add additional value. And to do this, we have a code enforcement officer, we have a building permit process. This is all part of the administrative work that we're doing in the office. Police calls for service, another area where we are seeing a tremendous increase with the number of people that are in town. Calls are up on the police side 65% from 2005. Surprisingly, the fire and EMS calls are relatively stable. I think we owe a thank you to our code enforcement office and the fire folks. We have relatively few of those calls in town, and I think it's because we have a very good permitting system, and we do regular inspections of all of our commercial properties. So I really think that helps keep our calls down. But the police numbers are definitely going up. In addition to that, we've started the new speed board, the radar board that you see coming into town, and it flashes at you. I won't tell you what the numbers are when I drive into town, but in addition to telling you what the speed is, it's also counting every car that drives into town. And on this slide, you can see in November, we had 22,874 cars come into town, November 1st to November 30th. And then that number went up to 32,846 in December, 34,700 almost in January. And then this February timeframe, over a 28-day period, 40,650 cars. That's correct. It counts everyone going up to the ski area, and that's a great point, Mike. But it also just tells you the volume of cars that are coming in to town. And so we're continuing to monitor this. This equates, the February number equates to, or on average for the 4 months, about 45 cars an hour around the clock. So obviously we have times when there's a tremendous number and times when there are zero, but just on average, it's 45 cars an hour. So a lot of traffic, which is a lot of people, and that's a lot of calls for service for our public safety folks. Water and sewer numbers. These numbers are a little bit confusing. The bottom line is we see our numbers decrease as a result of the pandemic, but we are seeing more regular use of our system. So we used to see these very large peaks and valleys. During the midweek period, we would see virtually no flow, and then on the weekends, we would see really large spikes. Now what we're seeing is that usage be a lot more even across the days. And what that's causing us to do is operate the plant more, and that takes more personnel time, and it takes more electricity and that sort of thing. So we used to be able to shut the plant down, go home at night, come back in and start it up first thing in the morning. Now we're running overnight. And so we feel that as the commercial activity comes back, as the pandemic wanes a little bit, that we're going to see these numbers come back and probably surpass the 2017-18 numbers that we were looking at. And then, oops, forgot to push the button. Solid waste disposal and recycling, again, an increase. The big increase and decrease that you see there in recycling on the bottom line is when we had single stream recycling and then we stopped it. We do recycle some of our materials, metals and stuff like that, but we know that we need to do better than those very low numbers on recycling, and we're going to be looking at that as soon as we get our new wastewater treatment plant planned and built. All right. And then while we were going through all of the increases, the top line is our number of full-time staff. The bottom line is our number of part-time regular staff. This does not include our seasonal staff that we hire during the summer for the rec programs primarily. But you can see that we are doing what we were doing in 2005 with the same number of people right now. This budget does start to address that with some new positions. And those increases in the usage are the reasons for the request for that additional money. Any questions? Yeah, Mike.
Mike Fergal, River Road. $13 million of building permits. How does that affect the assessments and tax rates? Now we should have a lot more revenue coming in if we're typically doing.
We're doing the reevaluation this year.
That's right. You'll see as we talk through the budget itself, there is a project in there. We have seen a large increase in the valuation, but the $13 million sounds like a lot, and it is a lot of money, obviously, but our total valuation is $333 million. So the $13 million is not a real huge increase to that $333 million number. It will give us some additional revenue, but it's not going to, change the actual amount that we have in total valuation by that much.
Is that your last slide?
That is, I'm ready to go.
Okay, thank you for that background. I'd like to hear a motion on Article 6. So, okay, come on up, Barry.
This is voting on the total budget, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I had a question. I noticed in the budget that for the shush bus, this past year was $28,000. Now we're asking for $56,000, which is a 100% increase. Can you talk about that?
Well, we got to get the motion. We
Yeah,
gotta do-
we'll get- yeah.
We'll get to that.
And we'll
just-
remember for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I think the confusion was that Mark was doing a little background before I actually introduced
Yep.
Article 16. So now we will do that, and then Barry, your question will be apropos. So I'd like to hear a motion on Article 16.
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,870,250 for general municipal operations. This article does not include appropriations from any of the preceding articles. $91,000 of this appropriation is to come from the December 31, 2021 fund balance available on January 1st, 2022.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second that motion.
And we can do the amendment now. Do your slides.
No, do it.
Okay. I'd like to recognize Rich Rita.
Madam Moderator, I'd like to move to amend this article to add $100,000 for a total of $4,970,250. These additional funds are to come from the December 31st, 2021 fund balance available on January 1st, 2022.
May I have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you.
So I'd like to, so this is an amendment first before we get to the total budget. The amendment is coming from the fact that this budget was drawn up and a lot of and all of the work that went into it is from December, January timeframe, okay? The recent changes in the situation in the world with the war in Ukraine, the significant increases that we have seen in fuel and oil has led us to look at what we have expended already and how we budgeted for in the November and December and January timeframe. As an example, vehicle fuel, okay, gasoline and diesel for all of our vehicles represents about $58,000, okay, total in the budget. Right now, with the recent increases in the amount of the cost per gallon from the distributor that we use, we're looking at potentially being overspent in those two line items alone by $21,000. That's not even looking at electricity, at heating fuel, or any other of energy for the town. Additionally, everything that we will buy from this point forward, just like in our homes, it's going to go up. Inflation is projected to be going up from 7% to 8% at least. Who knows what it's going to be when it comes out on Thursday. The problem is we have to live with whatever the decisions are made here tonight for the rest of the year till December 31st. And we cannot spend more than what you appropriate as a town meeting. So what we are asking is for you to increase our contingency account from $50,000 to $150,000. The $50,000 represents 1%, okay, of our total operating budget. So we're asking to increase that to 3%. And we're asking to fund it from the fund balance so that it does not affect your tax rate. If something changes over the summer and the the economy changes and prices start to come down or whatever, and we do not use all of the additional $100,000, it will just not come out of fund balance. It will remain in the general fund of the town. So we're trying to get a little bit of flexibility because of the uncertainty, but we're trying to do it in a way in which you don't have to pay additional property taxes to do it.
Mark, can you just explain what happens if we do not have this money and we are intending to overspend what's been authorized or appropriated?
So for a town, if a town finds itself in a position where it looks like you're going to overspend the bottom line, you have to go to the Department of Revenue Administration and you have to ask for permission to do that. It's only granted for emergencies, and quite frankly, we would have to start cutting the remaining part of the budget if we were faced with that, or if Department of Revenue Administration allowed us to do the supplemental expenditure, it would come out of the fund balance anyway. That would be the source of the money. So we're asking to use the same source of money that Revenue Administration would ask us to do. It just provides you with the opportunity to participate in the discussion about it and decide as a town to give us the flexibility to do that.
Questions on the amendment?
Yep, Sandy?
Sandy Larson, River Road. That's the budget amount, the 4 million. But
Yeah.
we just spent an hour and a half voting on funding different
Yeah.
items. Now, some come from general fund, as you explained.
Sure.
But others, so how much did that total? Because this doesn't really reflect what we're paying.
No, this is just, remember I can go back, let me go back through my slides and I'll show you, Sandy. Remember, sorry, it's right here. This number at the bottom, the 3,309,631, does everybody see that? Middle column, bottom, okay? That amount is if every warrant article passes, all of the separate ones and the big one, okay? That would be the amount of taxes to be raised. So what we have done is you've approved everything except the $50,000 right now. So that number is now 3,259,631, and the increase is down to 239,948.
Why does the budget read 4 million?
Well, look up at the top of that middle column. Look at the top of that middle column. Does this thing have a pointer? Right here. It's this number right here. This is Article 16, right there. This is the result of, and this is all of the other articles that you've already voted on. And this is the bonded warrant article, okay? So, I'm sorry, I didn't know about the pointer. I just saw it. I would have made this a lot easier on us if I would have gotten briefed on this. So right now we've lessened that number right now to 3,259,000. And we've lowered that number by tabling that warrant article.
Article 7.
Article 7, we've lowered that number to 239. Okay, so that's what the increase is. Does that?
Come on up, Joe. This really has nothing to do with the amendment.
Joe Jacobs, Noon Peak Road. There's no question that we're going to have to spend a lot more money this year than these figures show us.
Yeah.
But my question is, I mean, if we've doubled the population here in town, and we've got all of this money for permits and all of this stuff, how does that figure into the budget? I mean, with all these people who are coming in, they're all buying permits, they're registering their cars, all this money comes into us. How does that figure in what we're talking about here?
The permits aren't a one-on-one, Jeff,
Meaning,
meaning that you pay a small fee for your permit. You're not paying $130,000 for $130,000 worth.
no, I understand that. But the registrations for the cars, you know, and twice as many people coming into town. If 40,000 people are coming into town, they're spending money.
Yeah, so.
They're not
so
giving us tax money.
Right,
Yeah.
it's all based, so the downside of our community is that a lot of the second homeowners that came into town, a lot of that big increase in population, they moved into properties that already existed. So they were already on the tax rolls. And so the new value, that 13 million, that will affect our tax rate going forward, but again, not by a lot. I'm sorry, I didn't do the calculation on what it would, if we added 13 million, what it would do to the tax rate. But as far as the fees and those motor vehicles and all that, that's in this estimated revenue number here. And you can see, if you take $5 million off of that, because that was the big bond article last year, we actually increased our revenues by $410,000, right? This number, if these numbers were the same year to year except for the bond, this would be $5 million. See, it's only 4.5. So we have been increasing our other than tax revenues, but again, it's not.
No, I can see that. So what do you think it's going to cost us over all of this coming year? Do you have any idea?
Well, the problem is we're in the midst of it right now, but we're asking you to make decisions that go all the way to December 31st. So we're asking for some flexibility to do that, and we're trying to do it in a way that doesn't affect your tax rate.
Well, it's probably going to affect that
Well, it'll affect your tax rate in
Next-
2023.
next year.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But again, we don't know how much, and that's the problem that we're having. That's why this amendment is important.
Well, of course, because it seems to me if things are going the way they're going, you're going to be in trouble. We're all going to be in trouble come another 4 months.
Well, we're hoping that $100,000
I'm just
is
saying.
enough. So,
Thank you, Joe. Let me simplify this a little bit. At the moment, we're not talking about the Article 16, the budget. All we're asking for is for people to decide if it would be okay, we're going to vote on it after discussion on just the amendment. Would it be okay to increase the bottom line, do you think, yes or no, by $100,000? Then we'll get into the budget, and we'll take plenty of questions, I hope. We welcome them.
I'd like to move the vote.
oh, wait.
Second?
Katie's
Okay,
got a question.
so is it related to the amendment?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We just moved the vote.
Yep, I came up just before he made the
Yep,
motion.
yep.
So, Tom Ennis, 51 Snows Mountain Road.
not gonna argue.
I just thought with all the things going on and the budget and the increases, and you talk about energy and energy increases, has anyone, the town, begin to look at alternative energies such as solar, wind, et cetera, to decrease some of those things and maybe make it so the town is basically totally supplied with alternative electricity for all the homeowners? So just wanted to, has anything been done about
Thanks.
that?
Yes, there are committees on all of that.
I know there are committees, but what,
So nothing that can impact the 2022 budget.
well, is
There-
there,
We are looking at it, but it is not going to impact this budget.
I
Katie,
understand, and that's
can
why
you
I'm
wait?
asking, because I
Can you
didn't see
wait?
anything in the budget
Can
that
you wait?
related to do anything along those lines.
Yeah, we'll vote,
Okay.
and then.
We are looking at it.
I didn't
There,
see anything related to recycling in the budget, related to seeing how you can better approach recycling, et cetera. And I know that's been brought up every year since recycling has ended in 2018.
yeah, we can, I think, Madam Moderator, we can address these questions once we get to the
To
big
the budget. But
because
Katie has
that
a
is-
question related to the amendment, correct, Katie? So go ahead, yeah.
We, yeah,
And then we'll address yours, Tom. Yep.
In town financing, right, so when I do my stuff, I can reappropriate my line items and go under and over, and it's fine.
yes.
Can you do that within town financing, or is that not allowed per legal rules?
We, so the special warrant articles that you voted on,
Yeah.
where it's a specific reason and an amount of money, cannot use that for anything except that.
Right, but in,
This article can be used for any of the town operations, so the selectmen can move between
could move-
departments.
right, so then that would relate to, you could spend less in other departments to make up for the 100,000 and not have to pull the 100,000 from the fund balance, if we wanted to go.
If we wanted to go.
Okay, I didn't know if that was legal or not.
We
Yeah.
can do that.
Thank you. So that's related to the amendment, and even if we do pass the amendment, you could still deny the budget.
That's correct.
We're going to vote on Article 16 after we, anything else related just to the amendment? Okay, so all we're asking is for you to amend Article 16 to add that additional $100,000 to the bottom line. All those in favor, please raise their cards. And opposed? Okay, so now we'll move on to Article 16. We have some more slides in detail. Would you like to share those next?
No,
No? Oh.
absolutely. All right, so there you go. So the major budget impacts on the town operate are primarily due to increase in full-time equivalent positions, cost of living increases to wages, increases in health insurance premiums, retirement costs, and other inflationary changes. And then we have two projects in our capital that's included in the overall operating budget that are one-time costs. Let's talk about the capital projects first, because they're pretty simple. We have a revaluation project that's $70,000. And I'm sorry, but if you look at pages 14 to 16, or 14 and, 14 and 15, and then the detail goes from 16 to 21, but primarily 14 and 15. That shows you the line item detail by department, okay? The reval project is at the bottom, is on page 15 under cash capital projects. And you'll see there are two items there. First one is $70,000 for a revaluation. Our town, with property values continuing to rise, property sales continuing to rise, our assessments that we have for determining how much your share of the property taxes are have been changing. And right now, we are at about 71% in our sales ratio, which means that the typical sales of properties that are going on in town, on average, are about 29% higher than the assessment that your property has on it for tax purposes. We're required by state law to keep that number between 90 and 110%. So we are mandated by state law to go in and fix the fact that we're now down to 71%. On top of that, it's been 5 years since our last full revaluation, and that's another part of the state law that requires us to address it. So we are outside of our variance, and it's been 5 years. So we have to do this revaluation in 2022. We have a company that's lined up that has given us bids. We've gotten a bid back, and it's for $70,000. That project will be done during the summer this year and completed before the end of the summer. So that's the $70,000. The other $11,000 is for replacement of our handguns in the police department. Our current handguns are 12 years old. The weapons are used every year for training purposes, so there are a lot of rounds that are put through the weapons, and we try to replace them between 10 and 12 years. So we're at the outer edge of the life expectancy of the weapons. So those two make up the $81,000. The funding for this portion of the budget is from fund balance, so it does not affect the tax rate in any way. So let's talk about personnel. We use the New England Region Consumer Price Index, the November numbers, and in November it came out at 6.2%. So the Board of Selectmen utilized that number, and we've given an across-the-board cost of living adjustment to all full-time employees. We have a pay plan where employees, based on their category within the town, have a minimum and a maximum for their pay grade. And we will be looking at that pay plan, which we do every 3 or 4 years, to see about adjusting that. It's usually an inflationary thing. It has not been very serious adjustments lately, but with everything going on in the economy right now, we anticipate that we'll be making some changes to those minimum and maximums. We have a new full-time position in administration, and we have 1.5 full-time positions in public safety. The public safety position is a half because we funded 1/2 of a year of a full-time position during the transition and retirement of Chris Hodges leaving and the reorganization of the department. So we want to keep that person on and fund them for an entire year, and then we want to add one additional position on top of that. Other notes, our guaranteed maximum increase on our health insurance policies is approximately 4.5%. And other insurances are going up. We are also seeing increases. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact percentages, but we're seeing significant increases in the town share of the retirement, state retirement costs. I'm sorry, do we have
Skip the post office.
Oh,
You skipped the post office on the last slide.
oh, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Oh, yes. And we have a half of a full-time position at the post office because will be retiring this year. So we have a few months, 3 months of a position for that transition to occur. Utilities and other costs, which before the last discussion we had, we were planning for a 17% increase in electricity rates. We anticipate that will be a lot more than 17% by the end of the year. Water and wastewater operations are very heavy users of electricity. We have chemical costs that are increasing. Those increases right now are ranging from anywhere from 15 to 45% in our costs increases over costs we were paying in 2021. We also, as part of our new permit, will be doing some additional testing, getting ready for the new wastewater treatment plant. So we expect that there will be some increases in the cost of tests. Solid waste disposal costs are increasing about 25%. We've had an increase in the tipping fees of about $7,000. And we have a waste oil separator at the DPW garage that's paid for out of this line that we've got to clean out, that we've got a cost estimate of $12,000 to do that. So out of the $22,000 that you see in the increase on page 14, 19,000 of it is just from those two lines. And that's all I have, unless there are questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the floor? Yes, we will
Yep,
not
we'll get to
forget you.
those.
For sure, I have it in my notes.
I'm Tim Rose. I live on Sylvan Lane. My question is the reevaluation. When will that appear in the tax bills? Still this year or for the next year?
It will be, the new values will be reflected in this year's tax bills in October. So the first bill that you're going to receive in the summer will be under the old, because it has to be 1/2 of last year's rate. And then the new values will be in place in October.
Thank you.
See in December.
Well, the bills go out in October.
Do you remember Tom Ennis's questions?
Yes, so as far as alternative energy, Tom, there are no projects or no specific line items that address alternative energy in this proposed budget. We do have a committee that is looking at alternative energy, and we will be developing ways for the town to save. Now, we have been part of a cooperative where we go out and actually bid for energy for kilowatt hours or whatever. And we work with a broker to try to get the least cost for us. However, that ability to do that has gone away, and we've gone back. It's actually cheaper for us to utilize the co-op at this particular time rather than the broker. Now, I know that that's not specifically with green energy, but that's one way that we're trying to find alternative methods to find sources of energy. We will try to look at projects such as solar arrays or whatever as we move forward, but there is nothing in this budget that is specifically for alternative energy.
So I think looking at it holistically, that makes sense to incorporate that. But I also think you should begin to look, and maybe you can work with New Hampshire Electric to have them come out and do evaluations and look at the roof structures of all the public buildings. Look at the land areas that you have, and they can, I'm sure they can do a back of the envelope to tell you if you had solar panels on this many square feet.
We actually have done that work.
Okay.
We've had both the co-op has been in, they have done building assessments for us, we have done energy upgrades in prior years. We had a look at the buildings in 2021. There were no opportunities for us to make any further changes to our buildings. We had an energy audit done.
Were you looking at solar panels and things like that?
We did look at.
There's an article coming up, Article 21, where the Renewable Energy Committee is going to discuss some of the initiatives that they've been looking at.
And they helped us during 2021 look at those things.
I guess I would ask.
But yes, we have looked at that.
That it becomes a little more formal and there's something in the budget to working with some of these agencies to do that. And another thing is, as long as you're going forward and changing the treatment plant, that might be an opportunity when you do that, when you reconfigure and change the land uses and everything else.
Absolutely.
It's an opportunity to look for solar arrays and whatever new structures, or maybe over some existing areas, et
We've
cetera,
had
et cetera.
discussions.
Yes, we already have started, and our engineer for the wastewater treatment plant already knows that alternative energy is something we will look at during the design
And also,
phase.
if you can do
Yep.
something similar with the recycling. I know it's a tough nut sometimes,
Yep.
but, maybe work
We
with other
actually are, I
towns
mean,
and things like
we
that.
we have had discussions. We've formed the Municipal Solid Waste Committee to help the town deal with issues of our solid waste disposal, to include recycling. And also, there's some folks in town who have their own group that are working very hard to help people understand what they can do to recycle, while the town gets its act together to get back into the recycling game for household waste. We do recycle for industrial waste, and
Okay.
I think you can see some of the folks back there who've been here all day to answer any questions that both the informal
the
group.
survey.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Informal group and these
Please
formal.
take the survey.
These formal citizen group, town groups we've been looking at. There's just nothing in this budget that relates specifically to doing anything, as we're still looking at the options.
And then my last comment was on, in the earlier presentations, I think it would be very helpful when you're doing something like some of the planning things that you're planning, like the roadway improvements and things like that. If you could have a few additional diagrams that maybe had a cross-section of the roadway that showed the sidewalks and how you're going about that, I think that would be, very helpful for everybody. All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Questions, more questions from the floor? Article 16, budget. The now amended budget.
The question about the Schuster buses, I think, Barry?
Barry's question about the buses.
Oh, did that not get answered?
So we have, during the pandemic, the bus system changed and the operation of the system changed. So the amount that let me back up. The bus system is a cooperative system between the resort, the Waterville Valley Resort Association, which is a business organization, and the town of Waterville Valley. The resort manages the buses, and they pay 50% of the total cost of the bus system. The Resort Association and the town of Waterville Valley each pay 25% of the cost of the system. With the pandemic, the resort changed their bus operations and reduced their operations significantly, so the amount went down to the $22,000 shown in here. The Resort Association, the resort, and the town will be meeting actually at the end of this week to continue to work forward with a new budget and a new agreement for the transportation system, but we have not finalized that yet. So what the selectmen did in this budget was to go back to the 2019 number and put that number into the budget. That's what the $55,000 number is. That number may end up different after Friday, but again, that would be something that would come out of that contingency account for any differences in the cost. And so that's why Barry, I hope that addressed your question, but that's why it increased that much.
Any more questions from the floor? Well, then we'll move Article 16 to a vote, but I just want to remind you that it is now not $4,870,000, it's $4,970,000, because we've amended it by $100,000. So the bottom line is $100,000 more. That's what you're voting on. That's Article 16, the budget. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor? And opposed? Thank you. So I'd like to report the results of Article 4, which is, if you recall, the bond article, the $900,000 for the repaving and sidewalk project. And that passed 84 yes, 9 no. I'd like to recognize Mike Aronson for a motion.
I move to limit reconsideration on all preceding articles.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. So I don't know, these are legal things, if you understand what restricting reconsideration means. The effect of this motion is to ensure that voters who leave the meeting at this time can be confident that there's not going to be any change to the decisions that we've made thus far on appropriations. And so let's, do we have to vote on this?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, is there any question on that? Okay, let's vote on that, restricting reconsideration. All in favor? And opposed? Thank you. I'd like to hear a motion on Article 17.
Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend Selectmen's Ordinance 25, Parking Ordinance, dated July 14, 2004. The ordinance is rewritten to encompass the previous Ordinance 10, Parking fire hydrants, Ordinance 12, Fire lane parking, and the existing Ordinance 25, Street parking. The changes bring existing regulations in line with current state statutes, clarifies definitions, and delineates enforcement responsibilities and processes.
Second?
I will second.
The selectmen approved moving this article forward for the town meeting to discuss and vote on. So, and for those that didn't have a chance, that board has the full text of Article 17, if you didn't get a chance to look at it. Anything you want to add to this before we ask for questions?
No, unless
No?
there are questions on.
Does
the
anybody have
changes.
questions on this?
Mike?
Mike Fergal, 20 River Road. I read that today, and I want some clarity. So I
Come on
have a
up, Chief.
small driveway, and I often have people that come over, and I'm on River Road. Is it not legal for people to be on the street even for a couple hours?
Right now, that is correct. There's nothing in our current ordinance, correct, Chief, that allows the PD or the selectmen legally to allow parking on roads. So we're changing that. This gives that authority, discretionary authority, to the police and to the selectmen.
I would like to ask that we, I understand the main roads, but I live on this little tiny side road. We have no traffic at all. It's frustrating to think that, we might end up having, people get ticketed on our road.
I think, Mike, the idea here is to consolidate these various ordinances into one and to clarify what authorities the select board has, but then to go forward during the year with public hearings as to what we want to do with on-street parking. So we're not talking about making any changes to our parking right now, but I think to open up a discussion based on this new and improved parking ordinance as to where we may want to have it.
Chief? Yeah.
So basically, it doesn't change anything. It's already in effect. The only thing it does is consolidate and give a little bit more power to allow events or anything like that, because prior, the selectmen didn't have the ability to do that. So what this is going to allow is that we are also looking at potentially municipal parking down the road. This gives us that authority, but all it does is it adds a zoning ordinance and 3 parking ordinances. We have all of them already currently, so it doesn't change anything. Yeah.
No,
okay,
thanks.
I appreciate it.
No, it's good.
Public hearings before we
yeah.
make any changes to on-street
Yeah,
parking and municipal parking.
let's go to the public hearings. Jenny, come on up.
Hi, Jenny Lucas, Lost Pass Road. This might have just been the way you said it, but was it not a unanimous vote between the selectmen to bring this forward? And if not, what were the
They decided not to pre-prejudice the town meeting, is the way to look at it. So usually I say that the selectmen approved this 3-0 or 2-1. In this case, I'm saying, you decide. Or they're saying, we don't want to decide, you decide?
Are we allowed to know?
It was voted to move forward unanimously, but they didn't give you a recommendation because they want you to make the decision.
I was just curious,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thanks. More questions on Article 17?
Hold on, Margaret.
Yeah, I would also just comment that anytime that you have an event where you're anticipating there are going to be people, parking on the road, a 10-second phone call to the police saying this is happening usually ensures that people don't get tickets. So,
Well, if we can. I'll caveat that all the way.
Alan Leo.
Alan Leo.
So is the intention to start ticketing people? I mean, I've never gotten a ticket here. Now we're talking about.
No.
I thought you just said that you could be ticketed.
People have been ticketed.
People have,
Well, I know you can't be, like, I see about up the smoke, the ski area and everything like that. But, I mean, it sounds like, are we going to enforce this? Is that what we're doing?
we've always enforced it.
Yeah, we have been ticketing people as
For
appropriate.
my house, like.
Would you
like
ticket
my
somebody on Snows
People
Mountain Road?
park in the street when I
If
have
they
a
park on
crowd.
the street?
there.
Yeah,
Are
that's what
these
he's
people going to face tickets? Are you intention to enforce this?
We've always enforced it, so, I mean,
Okay, I don't know what that means, because
no, prior to me,
I've never gotten a ticket from anyone.
I've only been here 3 years, and I've always enforced it, so.
Well,
mean,
I
it's my
think,
understanding
Alan,
we've always enforced it.
What, Madam Moderator, the issue has been when we have allowed on-street parking, we really weren't supposed to. We didn't have that authority.
Correct.
So all this does is it gives the discretionary authority. So it isn't going to mean a change in the way we do things or anything like that. It is just that we're legalizing the fact
Okay.
when we allow the
I
on-street.
accept that. It's
so
like,
nothing's
don't start getting
changed.
tickets every
No, no,
time
no.
Extra people.
That's not the intent.
Nothing has
And that's-
changed at all.
That's what Mike's worried about
Yeah.
too, and I understand that. But that's not what we're intending to do.
More questions on Article 17? We'll bring it to a vote then. All those in favor of Article 17? And opposed? Passes?
It was allowed. I hope, if you get a ticket from that, just talk to me, please.
This is actually how we're raising revenue.
Yeah. Okay, I'd like to move on to Article 18. Could I have a motion?
I move that the town vote to amend the Selectmen's Ordinance Number 20, Solid Waste Disposal Ordinance, dated March 12, 2019. The proposed amendment to the ordinance grants the Selectmen review and waiver authority over the provisions of the ordinance.
Can I have a second?
I second the motion.
This vote just requires a simple majority. Anything to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, Madam Moderator, the description here, again, the selectmen have been making decisions which really, under the old ordinance or the way it was written, they didn't have the authority to grant waivers or anything. We've just been doing it. So this makes that legal. So it's not a change in what we're doing necessarily. It's making it
Formalized. Is there any discussion on this? Questions? Should we move it to a vote then? All those in favor, Article 18? Great. Opposed? Thank you. I'd like to hear a motion on Article 19.
I move that the town vote to amend Selectmen's Ordinance Number 21, Solid Waste Dumpster Enclosure Ordinance, dated March 12, 2019. Amendments clarify the intent of the ordinance, set container screening provisions for facilities visible from a town-maintained way, clarify the conditions under which the town can refuse to service a dumpster, and grant the selectmen review and waiver authority over the provisions of the ordinance.
Thank you. Could I have a second?
I second the motion.
Who's speaking on this? Anybody?
Yeah, I just very briefly, again, this is an attempt to clarify an older ordinance that wasn't quite up to the way we were doing things, at least as with the earlier ordinances, as Mark mentioned, that the select board was making decisions where they really didn't have the power to make those decisions. And there's some confusion over the standards for dumpster enclosures, and this is going to create a process whereby people, commercial entities, or homeowners associations with dumpsters can come before the select board and discuss with the select board if for some reason there is a problem with dumpster enclosure. The select board will be able to grant waivers to the standards for the enclosure if any particular select board decides to do so.
Is that it, Rich? Any questions on that? Should we bring it to a vote? Article 19, clarification. Let's vote on it. All in favor? And opposed? So noted. Do I hear a motion on Article 20?
Oh, that's me, sorry. Madam Moderator, I move that the town vote to extend the authority given to the Board of Selectmen by Article 23 of the 2021 town meeting warrant to negotiate the terms and conditions of a sale of an approximately 0.8 acre lot to the Robert F. Kennedy Memorial Chapel to lapse at town meeting 2023.
May I have a second?
I second the motion.
Who's going to speak on this?
The Board of Selectmen and the Chapel Committee have been talking all through 2021 regarding the sale of this property. At the town meeting last year, the authority to negotiate the sale of that property was limited to until this meeting. We were not able to get a purchase and sale to bring before you because the selectmen are not authorized to actually do the sale. It's going to have to be approved by town meeting, but we're not at the point yet where we had something to bring to you. So this article is intended to extend the negotiation authority for one more year to town meeting next year. And hopefully we'll have a purchase and sale to bring in and for you to decide on. But the town will decide as a group whether or not to actually sell the land. Judy?
Judy Ritchie, Tecumseh Road. I'm not in favor of this, but before I say why, I just want to say, this is the Robert Kennedy Memorial, and there are lots of people in this room who know it wasn't just that Bobby Kennedy skied here. Bobby Kennedy was really a great help in getting through the federal process and all of in order to develop the mountain. So I appreciate his contribution. It's the actual project that I have a problem with. The first thing, I think the town should be keeping itself at arm's length from this project and not becoming involved, not even in the sale of land. First off, there's a lot of building going on in the town. I don't think we have an acre of land that we own as a town that we ought to be selling to anyone. And if we do have an acre of land that we think we can sell, it ought to be on the market, not negotiated as a private sale. Secondly, this is a nonprofit organization, and we do have a propensity in this town to think the nonprofits really help us and we want to support them. We voted earlier at this meeting for Curious George. Well, you know, I mean, the Rays lived here for a time. We think Curious George was born here. So it's something we want to support. But we're spending money to develop and maintain a building a nonprofit is using, and I'm kind of assuming we're not charging them rent. We have a propensity to do that. So again, we should keep ourselves at arm's length from this project and not become involved in it, because we just don't know down the line what they're going to need. They're going to build a chapel. Where are the bathrooms? What kind of thing are we going to get ourselves into? So I think we should stand away from it now, except for zoning, and they'll come to the board and they'll do that. Lastly, this is the Robert Kennedy Memorial Chapel, and I've heard all over town it's non-denominational. Not if it's the Robert Kennedy Chapel. We have people who live in this town, who are residents, who are not Christians. So again, the town, separation of church and state, the town should stay away from a project that has any religious bent. And just the name itself is, I think, a bad thing for us to get involved in. Thank you.
Thank you. More discussion? We welcome it. Good job, Morgan. You beat him. Morgan Diem.
Morgan Deem, Sunnyside. I asked the question last year, and I'm not sure you have an answer this year based on what you just said, but what is fair market value for that piece?
We don't know,
Appraisal's
because
being done.
And it's being done in process? Okay.
Yeah.
Mark, you want to remind the people what the original motion was about, because it had some things in it about fair market value and that type of thing?
Last
So,
year?
Yes.
Yes, the selectmen are limited not only in the time, but the fact that they cannot, it's not a discount sale because it's a nonprofit or anything like that. So whatever gets negotiated will have to meet all of the criteria of being at fair market value, et cetera. But we have not really 100% identified the boundary of the lot or anything like that. So there's still a lot of work to be done before we can bring anything back to town meeting.
Alan Burko, Jennings Peak. Can you speak to what you've accomplished in the last year for this project?
Well, Mike? No.
Well,
Yeah.
we've been negotiating with them, and we've set a purchase and sale that has a tremendous amount of contingencies that are realistic. Some of the contingencies have not been met yet, and the purchase and sale the property will not be deeded over till town meeting approval. But the purchase and sale will give them a right if they meet the criteria, which involves things like, what they're going to do, it's extensive, and that's why it's taken a year to negotiate it. We're getting closer and closer with it, but it's still not there yet. But it's not going to be done without without the townspeople approval and review of all of the conditions that have been put on it. We've talked a bit about this, and it's in the record of our meetings with the chapel committee and the selectmen's meetings, if you want to review those and watch them and look at the minutes as to what we've been discussing. It's really a list I don't want to get into right now.
Yeah, I think in summary, the type of things that we've been talking about, Alan, are easements that will be necessary, the fact that they have to go to the planning board for subdivision and site plan review. Those sorts of things are what we've been talking about primarily, but they're all contingencies that will have to be met before the sale can be finalized. So that's what we've been working on.
And you haven't gotten an appraisal?
They're working on an appraisal now. It's actually been pretty difficult to get someone to come in and
Are you going to put it up on the market before you sell it, if you're going to sell it?
We have not talked. No, we have not talked about doing.
You can only sell it to the chapel?
Interesting point.
Yeah. Well, right now, we are only negotiating with the chapel committee because that's what the town has given the selectmen authority to do.
But how can you know what its value is if you don't put it on the fair market?
Well, that's what the appraisal is intended to do.
When you were looking to expand the water treatment plant
Mhm.
and the National Forest Service wanted to sell you land, how much were they looking for?
We never got to that point where we talked about a price.
I've heard different, but I'll take you for your word.
Well, the lot that we looked at 15 years ago was valued at 300,000 an acre, but that's not the value today.
See, Ellen, I think your point's well taken, and I think, Judy, your point was well taken as well. All we're asking for at this stage is to continue the negotiation. This does not make it a done deal by any means or any other way, shape, or form. So that's the point of the article.
And let me just make a quick point, Mike. This is all based on the fact that the nonprofit came to the town meeting and asked for the selectmen to be given, this was in 2021, the authority to negotiate an agreement. They were interested in a piece of property that the town owned. And the town meeting in 2021 agreed for the select board to be able to negotiate, to enter negotiations to see if we can come to an agreement. But no town meeting is bound by a previous town meeting. So what we're saying here is that in the year that you gave us the authority to negotiate, we have yet to come to an agreement. And we need to continue. If you don't give us the authority to continue negotiations, then we will not continue negotiations. Please.
Mike Coppell, 11 Devereux Way. I just want clarification. As of today, there is no purchase and sale agreement, and there will not be a purchase, and we will know when a purchase and sale agreement is being negotiated, and we will see what that appraisal is.
Oh, yeah. Mike, let me clarify. There is.
I kind of heard it. You understand?
No, you opened up another can of ambiguity here. There is a purchase and sale agreement. It has not been finalized or signed off by the authority that the selectmen have had to do it, or the chapel committee. On their side, they have some concerns as well. So that exists, and none of this will be done without complete transparency. And the purchase and sale gives them a right to do something, and if they don't meet the criteria in the purchase and sale, it's not going to be deeded to them. So it's not just the fact that they come up and go, here's our, whatever it costs, thank you for the land.
I just wanted to thank you for putting the diagrams in the minute meetings of the chapel. And one of the things that struck me is there have been previous discussions about having bathroom facilities for the beach area and the area over there. And it actually looks like where the chapel is might be a good place for the town to consider to do that.
All right, I'm going to field this one, and I'll stop you right now, Tom. A couple of years ago, we bought a parcel of land below the Golden Eagle on the beach. We have, that land was bought with the town's intention, this is my pet project and pet peeve, so I'll get it out now in front of everyone while I'm still here, is the land was bought to build a bathroom/bathhouse to expand the bathrooms in Town Square and provide a better guest experience and a better experience for town residents who want to use the beach. I, as one selectman, I'm very frustrated that we have not moved forward in a more aggressive manner on this. And the money is there if we can find it. You know, we came up with an initial estimate where it became an engineering nightmare, but we haven't, to my satisfaction, and I think, well, to my satisfaction anyways, pursued the engineering and the plan to get that bathroom in there.
Well, the reason I brought it up is I had heard that you weren't going to be able to build it on that lot because of slopes and things like that. But
These are two different lots, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I know,
right.
I know. But I'm just saying, if you want to have a public bathroom, you have to, I think, keep all your options open about where you're going to do it. I think that would take precedent over this. The other thing that
Well, if I, just
Okay.
a quick point.
Yep.
This is 0.8 acres out of, what's the total lot size of that lot? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, not really. Five or 6 acres,
Five?
all the way around the pond.
So it's a portion of a lot that goes all the way around the pond, and it's not the lot we purchased to put the bathroom pavilion.
I understand that.
Okay.
So, but the other thing that struck me is, because I was here a few years ago when they first came by, my understanding was going to be a pavilion. And in looking at the diagrams and the drawings, now it's become a building, and it's
What are you talking about, the chapel? or
the
back
chapel.
there?
I'm not, I just,
The chapel.
the chapel, sorry, the chapel. So originally, the chapel was going to be a pavilion, and now it's a structure, and if it's a building, I'm assuming it's going to have bathrooms. And it's also relatively large. I did a quick estimate, it's approximately 2,000 square feet. So it's a much different scale than I think what was originally presented to us. And I think that needs to be taken into account as and when you guys move forward.
Those would be the exact questions.
I'm not going to be here. So.
That will be discussed if we reach a purchase and sale of it. These are the things that the town will have to decide.
All right. Well, I just want to make sure, because a lot of times, by the time it comes to town meeting, it's almost a done deal.
Yeah.
Very often, that, instead of,
In this particular case, what you will see at town meeting is a document that both the selectmen and the chapel committee think they can live with, and then it's up to the townsfolk to decide whether we should proceed with it.
and then who's going to be helping review? Will the planning board and the selectmen be looking at the design process as it comes forward and what they're proposing?
There does need to be a planning board review.
Yes, both subdivision and site plan
They have to abide
review.
by zoning-
Okay,
They have to abide by zoning.
zoning ordinance.
all right, thank you.
I just want to clarify for myself, listening to what you were just saying to Tom and everything. The negotiation is for a piece of land around the pond,
On the pond.
on the
On the
pond,
pond.
to
part of the
build
lot.
a Christian chapel.
Well, that's a point that you can look at and revisit, but we are bound by what town meeting voted on last time.
To allow you to negotiate.
So now, under what this project was, this project came before it as a chapel. It wasn't come as a building and, we're going to do a chapel now. And the town people voted in favor of allowing the selectmen to negotiate to move forward with this. So at this stage, the only way, if you really wanted to stop it, would be at the purchase and sale next year, or if you could get a vote to, right now, to suspend our authority to do it.
All right now. And if we did vote now to suspend your authority,
Yep.
that doesn't mean at some time in the future, we couldn't go back, or they would be free to buy a piece of private land anywhere in the valley if
exactly.
they met zoning and build a chapel.
If you do this, or they could come back next year, or in the year after, or anytime.
So our vote now is just to stop things,
To allow us to continue the process of negotiating.
or if we vote no,
Then,
that will
Yes.
stop things, and it can be picked up at a later time when things perhaps are a little clearer.
Whatever, yep.
Okay. I think we're through the questions. And so all we're voting on here is to extend this authority to the select board to continue to negotiate the terms and conditions of the sale.
Wait a second, Marilyn.
We have another question? Yeah, yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name's Eric Barth. I'm on the chapel committee and the architect for the chapel. Thanks for hearing us out and considering this. Just wanted to make a couple clarifications from what was said. The lot we're considering is actually half the size. It's not 0.8. We're looking 0.4 acres, actually. So it's a plot that's mostly unusable, really, for anything else. We're also have plans to include a bathroom in the chapel. So that's not something that would be relied on, a bathhouse or anything like that. That'd be part of the building itself. So that question came up. And then in terms of it being called a chapel, the intended use is really just for anything. It's not specific for, a Christian worship. It's just, it could be used for concerts, for community events. That's the name, but it is meant to be used for many other things. So just to answer a few of the questions that came up. Thank you.
0.4 acre.
0.4 acres, and the size of the building itself is for 150.
So how many square feet? What's your footprint?
It's been about 2,000
Okay.
the whole time. We haven't changed that. Anyone could rent the anyone could rent the space.
That's what we're negotiating, right? That's what we're negotiating.
Anyone could use the space. We haven't figured that out.
Alan, that's part of the negotiation, to see what their usage is and what their plan for the building is. You know, it's, that's not the town's business. I'm not speaking for or against. We're just negotiating a sale with another entity. I'm sorry, both were talking
Judy, I
at the same time.
couldn't hear you. Right.
No,
And then you could
understood.
vote. Right. And at that point, if this comes in front of the town meeting, you could vote and say exactly what you said, even though we have conditions in there.
Yeah, but the issue is, as I see it, is this was voted for by the town to proceed. You know, it's as plain as simple as that. The town's vote, last time we voted on it, it was voted to proceed with how they presented it to us. If something changes, something changes.
Patty Fergal. My question is, this has been going on for a year, the negotiation phase. What are some of the sticking points, and why would we think the next year would be any different? Is the sticking point that they're not ready to move forward? Are there questions about building on the land? Are there questions about price? What are the sticking points that it's taken so long to negotiate?
I would start by saying there's a new lawyer involved that came in at the last minute, just as we were about to reach consideration from the chapel side. So we had gotten a long way towards and thought we were about ready perhaps to bring this to a warrant article this year, and with the chapel doing additional consultation, this person with new eyes decided there were a lot of things that needed to change in the agreement. But, you know, the agreement itself.
There were easements and things like that. It's a landlocked property, so there was different wording in the contingencies between the attorneys of, you know, how this particular easement from say the town square side across the bridge, across town property into the chapel, and then another easement from up by the Golden Eagle. There were things like that became very complicated, and we just weren't able to get the language so that everybody was in agreement that that's what we were saying. So it wasn't just the easements, but those are examples of things. Plus, we were talking about the price, and getting somebody to come in and do an appraisal was very difficult, and we weren't able to do that. We had to have the property surveyed during the year so that we could identify what land we were actually talking about. And then, as Eric alluded to, that got modified during the year. So there's been a lot of back and forth. We've met probably twice a month at least all through the process. I mean, we've spent hours on trying to get the agreement so that everybody would sign off on it. And we just weren't able to do it.
I mentioned one other thing which we had gone back and forth on. The selectmen would very much like to see what the business plan is for the operation of this building. Not only, you know, what is the budget going to be, but how is it going to function going forward? How is it going to support itself? Because this is not intended to be a town building. And we had reached agreement that in fact there was going to be a business plan for us to look at before any signing was going on, and all of a sudden that disappeared from the agreement. And that's a real sticking point with us, because we do want to know what is the intention going forward and how is it going to sustain itself. We don't want to end up with a situation where it's not built or it's half built and there's no money to go on, or it can't sustain itself. So those are some of the concerns that we've had throughout the process. And again, as Mark said, the chapel committee has been really good about having meetings with us and meeting on a regular basis, and we made a lot of progress, but we just couldn't get it over the finish line. Yeah.
And there was also questions about how we would effectuate town usage of the property once it was built.
And that's not of the building, but of the surrounding land.
Right.
Again, easements across that property. There's a ski trail easement that's involved. There's access to the beach area. All of those things are, it's just trying to describe that so that everybody is in agreement with what's going on has been difficult.
Just a comment on easements. If this piece of land is close to the pond, then you can kind of imagine there's going to be a lot of town land that's around it. Easements have a way unintentionally of preventing the rest of the town from crossing near them, or, you know, paths are built to the chapel and you don't feel like you should be walking your dog over there because you're walking across their pathway or their road. This property shouldn't be that close to the...
Right, Judy, as far as that goes, there are cross-country trails, and we've discussed that. That's the easiest point we've got there. That one is a non-issue as far as
Well, it's a non-issue in clarifying with them what the easement means, but it's not a non-issue in people's minds as they're walking around town.
We can't be responsible for people's minds.
No, you can't, but you can be responsible for not allowing the project, therefore don't allow the easement. So I'm just saying...
It's not us vote the way you want to vote on this. We're just sitting up front here.
And, but as the negotiators, I'm just saying be careful as you pick out what the easements are, because those can come back and bite you in the rear end. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rob?
Hi there, Robert Deem, Sunnyside. Clearly there's a lot of opinions about how this project should go forward. As an average Joe town person, what board, committee, where would my opinion be best voiced in a smaller venue than, say, a town meeting?
Selectmen's
At the select board meetings?
When we have hearing, they're on the agenda.
When they're on the agenda.
When things with the chapel come up on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just, as a point to this discussion, I pulled up the August wigwag on my phone. Thanks, Mike, for the digital copy. It has the development plan of the Valley Core in there, and there's properties that are owned by a couple different groups that are planned to be developed. So, like where we have the chapel or the marriage pavilion, whatever you want to call it right now, where they do their weddings, and then on the other side where the golf course, the old 7th hole, used to tee off there. Those are going to be big developments as well. So there's a very limited amount of green space around Corcoran's Pond that I think, the value of this piece of land isn't going to go down. It could only go up in the future. So I look forward to talking more about you guys at select meetings about, when this comes up in discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Come up and, yeah. Hang on, there's somebody ahead of you.
I'd like to make a motion to call the question.
Okay, could I have a second on that?
Yep, I think they were.
Can we move that to vote? All in favor of calling the question? And all opposed to calling the question? Woo! All right. I think the in favors have it, but we're going to have to do a count. Can I have some counters? My trustee supervisors of the checklist. We have a close vote on calling the question.
You should say it to
We
her.
can change it, can't we? We can change whatever the moderator does.
Yeah, right?
Madam Moderator, I mean, there seemed to me there were
Point
a
of
couple...
order.
Point of order. There seemed to me there were a couple people who were standing up to speak when you recognized someone to call the question.
Oh.
Bertie had.
Let Bertie speak. I think it just... I understand, but
Yeah, okay, so.
Bertie was actually closer to the microphone.
From your perspective,
All right.
I mean, when you're the moderator, you can make that decision. But he was asking me from the back of the room before those guys even came forward.
Yeah,
And
but
I said, yes, but please come up.
All right.
So,
You've got a vote that you got to count.
You have a vote, yeah.
You got a vote that you got to.
So, all those in favor of calling the question on Article 20, please hold up your cards and we'll count you. You want to take, okay.
Yes.
This is only asking you if you want to finish discussion on Article 20 and take it to a vote. That's
no
all we're
further
asking you.
discussion.
That's what calling the question means.
I just feel sorry for Bertie if this goes against him. I don't think it's going to pass. It's not looking...
I have 30.
Well, the strategic error...
What's your total? 19 plus.
I can anticipate this, just to allow us to continue to talk for another year. We're not deciding.
Okay, so let's hope she gets. We're just voting whether to call the question or not call the question. We're not voting on Article 20 itself. Are you thoroughly done with discussing? 13? 19 and 13. 32. Yeah, because one, that's right. Okay. So 32 are in favor of calling the question. All those that would not like to call the question, that would like to continue the conversation.
Simple question.
Simple majority? Did you get 26? On this side?
No, I haven't. We're out.
They do not.
Yes, I do not want to call the question.
Nope.
You can put them down, they're done.
The question is moved. We're calling the question 32 yeas, 28 noes, 28 noes.
No. Simple. Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay.
They're your
Thank
rules.
you.
Thank you. Good call.
I don't know what you're talking about. Thank you.
So we're
very much.
continuing
So we will
discussion.
continue the conversation because we have not met the 2/3 vote parameter, which I must have written 8 years ago.
So keep talking.
I thought it was. I had a
Alan
paper.
and then Bertie.
I just want to make the selectmen very much aware of what I said before. Based on the chapel's own blurb here, it's an interfaith chapel, and the chapel is for use for community events, concerts, etc., and spiritual services for all faiths. I think if you get to the point where there's a purchase and sale, that has to be in it.
Okay. Bertie?
Bertie,
Bertie?
come on up. Let's hear from you.
Well, I just was going to say, maybe to clarify this for everybody here, is that we would happily have a charrette or explanation. We decided not to do that at this meeting, thinking that it wasn't necessary, but it sounds like there are a lot of questions. So maybe within the next, Eric, what would you say?
6 months.
We could do a charrette for people.
A town, like a public meeting, a discussion
Yes.
about
public
it.
Meeting and discussion.
And take your
If
input.
people were agreeable to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
that would be good. Any more questions?
Yes, my name is Charles Hastings, Noon Peak. I'm uncomfortable with voting to extend because there are a number of things about building this chapel in this particular location that bother me. I think it's whether or not we should have a chapel and who should, so forth, is a separate issue. But I don't like the idea of locating this in that location. There's a lovely brook that runs through there. It's so far an undeveloped side of the pond. There's lots more building that is planned for the general area. I would love to see some of this area remain wooded and natural. So I'm uncomfortable with approving extending another year to discuss putting a chapel in this specific location. Whether there's to be another location will be another issue, but I don't like this location, and so I would not feel good about voting to have all parties spend another year voting to build a chapel in this particular location. So that's why I'm going to oppose this year-long extension.
Thank you for being clear.
So are we ready to bring this to the vote? I have received a request, a written request, per order of the RSAs, for this vote to be on paper. So I think that's a good idea. It's going to take us a few minutes. We'll try to get through it quickly. So at this point, we're ready to bring it to a vote. Use the next white sheet of paper in your packet.
I know.
And please vote yes or no on Article 20, whether you would like to extend the negotiations.
Margaret, you get yours? I'll take them up.
Could you just repeat the article?
Yes. We're voting on Article 20 at this point to extend the authority given to the selectmen to continue to negotiate the terms and conditions of the sale. And it will be by written ballot. Everybody needs a good stretch at this point. Hey, Brian, will you put me back on? Quickly, if you could. The stretch is over. So we'll hear momentarily the results on Article 20. If you could return to your seats, please. not going up? Oh, okay, all right, all right. While we're waiting for the results of Article 20, I'd like to report to you the results of our official ballot session that took place today. I'd like to tell you the winners of the official ballot session that took place today from 12 to 5. So we have a new selectman coming on board, Bob Freeze. Bob, are you still here? Are you awake? Oh, thank you. Yeah. I know. Never leave the room. We have a re-election of Cheryl Moak for library trustee and Gretchen Williams for library trustee. Jean Mullen, a re-election for supervisor of the checklist. Jean, how many years is that? Your next 6-year term is starting. So 12 already? That'll be 18. Yeah, that'll be 18 years. Okay. And we have a new moderator coming in, too. Want to stand up, Patty? Patty Fergal, stand up, please. Okay. For school, Mike Coppell will continue as school board member. We have quite a mess for school board clerk and treasurer. So we have a lot of blanks and a lot of write-ins. So we'll inscript somebody, so stay tuned. That's what we do. That was an open position. Nobody was running for it, for school board clerk and treasurer. Let's see, 93 blanks. Oh, Lori. Where's Lori? If Lori wants to do it. She does? Okay, so that's good news. All settled. Lori Fernandez was reelected. You know, she must have gone to the bathroom. That was a bad idea. Yeah, and school district moderator, again, Patty Fergal. All right. And the only other two pieces, if you can even remember back that far, were zoning, Article 2 and Article 3 that you voted on by official ballot today. Article 2 was the one about changing from village commercial to green belt. Yep, so that passed quite well, 105 to 9. And Article 3, which was about the short-term rental clarification, that passed 88 to 25 and 1 undecided. So that's it for the town official balloting today. And we are going to now move on to, are you gals close to done? They're engrossed. So while they're counting, I'm going to go forward to Article 21, which reads, yeah, but I need to say what Article 21 is. Hearing the reports of agents, auditors, and committees of officers. We do have one committee that was, I believe, established by our select board, and that's the Renewable Energy and Community Power. And Kim Rawson, who is chairing that committee and is also a teacher in our Waterville Valley Elementary School, is going to do a presentation for us on that. And you may have seen coming in this evening that she had a survey, as did the recycling committee, had a survey. If you haven't had a chance to take it, please do. It will really be helpful for the town going forward to get that feedback from everybody about recycling efforts here and renewable energy efforts here. And may I also say before Kim starts, one other thing. The newly elected officials, please stay after the meeting so we can swear you in.
Shouldn't recognize it.
Got that, Bob? Don't go to sleep yet. Okay, take it away. Kim, you want to come up here? So I'm sure you're all wide awake and so happy to hear someone talk about electrons, right? So, who said no? Did I tell you she was a science teacher? So if any of you were, I'm sure you were all riveted by Mark's presentation tonight. I certainly was. 17% increase in electricity, right, Mark? Yep. So electricity costs are going up, and they're projected to do so disproportionately for the state of New Hampshire. Bad news. Good news, there is community power. There's a number of reasons why energy costs are going to go up in New Hampshire more than the states around us, and that's because they're investing in renewables. But we don't need to talk more about that. In the last couple of years, Governor Sununu signed HB 315, which is a piece of legislation that's actually, it's wonderful. It allows for the program called Community Power, and this particular community power legislation is one of the best in New England. And what it allows us to do is it allows us to have choice over where we're purchasing our energy, to negotiate for the best prices, and to decide what types of energy we want to purchase. Okay, so if we want to purchase more green energy, we would have that. It also allows us to set aside a reserve account. So say we wanted to pay 7 cents a kilowatt hour, but we wanted to put 1 penny per kilowatt hour into a reserve account. We could then start an account that could build, we could start building our own energy projects here in town. So if we can start building our own energy projects here in town, producing our own electricity, we can then save money long term. And so the community power also is the only way right now in the state of New Hampshire that allows communities to purchase the electricity that they produce. So it's a very exciting initiative. We are investigating it right now. That's why we asked everybody to take this survey and we're going to share these results with meetings over the next year, because this absolutely has to reflect what this community wants if we're interested in this. But we need to be realistic about these energy cost increases and come up with a plan, hopefully get out in front of these increases. There's tons of information on the website, so the town website, and this survey is also linked up on the website, and we can certainly, I'll leave this tacked to the back wall if you want to grab the QR code on your way out. Thank you for your time, and thank you for trying to appear somewhat awake while I spoke to you tonight. Thank you, Kim. Do you still have the paper copies of the survey back there? Okay, so for anybody that might have missed the survey, if you don't want to scan the QR code and you want to just pick up a paper copy, they'll be in the back of the room where Kim is right now. I have the results of Article 20, the granting the extension to the Select Board to continue to negotiate with the Chapel Committee, the terms. And the Article 20 fails, 43 noes, 23 yeses. Article 22.
What it means is that the select board can no longer negotiate an agreement to sell the property that the chapel committee has identified as that it would like to buy. For this, yes, for this town meeting.
That put an end to selling the land to the chapel committee.
They could come in front of town meeting next year and we could request authorization.
Reggie.
So yes, the purchase and sale agreement, we can no longer work on that purchase and sale agreement.
Then it's done.
Well, no,
No.
the chapel committee can come forward again at next town meeting and request, or warrant, either a warrant or a petition warrant, and request that the town give the select board the authority to negotiate an agreement.
So I'd like to move on to Article 22, which is there any other business which legally could come forward at this time? We do have one by the Historical Society that'd like to give us a little update.
I promise not to keep you much longer. I know you've been here all day, all night, so I will be very brief. I'm Reggie Breckner. I'm the president of the Waterville Valley Historical Society. And this month marks the 4th anniversary of our founding. So we've been here for 4 years, and in those 4 years, we've done a lot to fulfill our mission. Our mission is to gather, preserve, protect, and share the history of Waterville Valley, New Hampshire. And we couldn't have accomplished that without the help of all of you, everyone here. And I'd just like to, on the behalf of the Board of Directors, thank the town of Waterville Valley for both the financial support in the form of a $10,000 grant that we get annually from you, and also for the continued support of the many projects that we have done. I want to thank the resort for our headquarters in Town Square and for the use of the facilities for our many programs that we have throughout the year. Also, the Waterville Valley Rec Department for sharing our history by continuing to conduct historical walking tours in the valley, and also our cellar hole hikes. They've helped out tremendously, and also supporting our Getting to Know the Valley, one of the programs that we do every year over Labor Day. And I want to thank the Waterville Valley Elementary School for allowing us to share the history of our valley with the students through historical presentations and a trolley tour. And also the community for your membership, participation, donations, and well wishes. If you want to know more about the society, you can find some information in the town report that's over there on page 86. We talk about what we've done in the past year. And also, I urge you to stop by our little museum at the end of the road, which basically is a display window to the right of the post office. Every season we change the display, and it's got historical artifacts that are part of our town's collection, and also things that some of our members have loaned us from their own personal collections. And also in the summer, we will be running historical trolley tours again, and they're open to everyone. We do them on the Sundays. We usually do 2 a day. I know it's been a long day, and you've had a lot of votes to cast and a lot of decisions to make regarding the future of our town. Over the past 4 years, we've talked about the possibility of a museum in town. And at this point, I don't want a discussion. I don't want to keep you any longer. I would just like a sense of the meeting of how you feel about that. Should we, as a board, proceed pursuing this? If we do put a museum, and this is going to be a community museum, it's not going to be the board's museum. We want input from the very beginning, before we've even researched anything, from you as to what you want it to be. Do you want it to be a community center? Do you want it to be a place where we can have meetings? Do you want it to be a place where the children can go and learn about our history? We want that from you. So I'd like a show of hands just saying, yeah, we'd like you to pursue this, or no, we do not. So anyone that is interested in us pursuing this, just asking questions around town and seeing what you want it to be, please raise your hand. Anyone who is not
It's non-binding, it's just
Non-binding.
a sense of the meeting vote. Are you interested in continuing their efforts to find a space, a gathering space?
No, not even to find a space. We want to know, do you want us to think about this? Do you want us to get out there and say to you on the street, how do you feel? What do you want us to put in this museum? That's all we're going to do at this point. And then we'll come to you again and say, excuse me? We would like to, we're starting out with online. We do have a website right now that you can all go to. We do put information in it. What we are doing now, this is really exciting. We have done 2 oral history interviews. We are going out into the community, and we're interviewing people on video to see what they know about the history of our town. It's going to be recent history, as in the development of the ski mountain, and then also the descendants of the valley, original people who can talk about their families. So we're going out into the community, and we're doing oral video histories, basically, and they will be online eventually. So we're going to do some things online. We are archiving all of the things that are part of the collection. That's what we've had an archivist come in every year since we started just about, and she's archiving things. We have a relationship with a gentleman, he's one of our interns from Keene State College, and he is coming in every Saturday and he's archiving things for us. We have a relationship with PSU, interns from there that are coming in and helping with us. So this museum would be online initially, and then we would like a physical building. But that's what I'm asking you. Are you interested in us pursuing the thoughts of a building?
Okay, so we're asking just for a sense of if you're interested in pursuing.
Us looking into building a museum in this town someday. Non-binding.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Go home, relax,
No,
enjoy.
no, no, no.
Oh, not yet,
Bye,
sorry.
Bye. Yeah, new moderator. Oh, my gosh. Okay, if there's no additional, we do have one additional item. I'd like to recognize Margaret Turner. Wanna come up here?
So it so happens that we have one of our selectmen who is leaving us after many years of service. And 12, yeah. So we have here from, for Mike Aronson, this special plaque, gavel and all, okay? For your many years of service, of consequential public service, which were greatly appreciated. Thank you, Mike.
Wow. Thank
And
you,
with that,
everybody.
I think, did you want to say something?
I just
Please,
wanna-
please.
Come on, this is my last opportunity.
Go, Mike.
Thank you, everybody, and remember, this is our town, your town. We can make a difference here. Use your voice, make a difference, and create the town that we all want. Thank you, and I want to especially thank those who've given me feedback, both positive and negative, through the years. I couldn't have done any of these things without the feedback and the support of everyone here, so thank you.
Hey, Mike, would you like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah, and I'm not even going to say what I was going to say before, but yes, I would like to make a final motion to adjourn the meeting.
All those in favor? Seconded? Oops.
I second.
Whatever. Goodbye. Okay.